Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're jumping straight into a really fascinating piece of source material. It's a real-time log from an aquarist named Ang, dated August 15, 2026. Now, at first glance, you might just see a simple journal entry, but if you read between the lines, it's actually this high-stakes aquatic microdrama. It's a story all about growth, hidden potential, and the literal leaps of faith required to actually thrive in an enclosed ecosystem. So let's map out the exact dilemmas happening right beneath the water's surface.
Okay, let's dive into this. It's the classic risk versus reward scenario. In the wild, and honestly even in our own tanks at home, almost every living creature hits a breaking point. Do you keep your fish in a highly controlled environment where survival is basically guaranteed, but their progress and growth are totally stifled? Or do you take a chance? Do you introduce them to a vast new ecosystem where resources are abundant, but the variables are just completely unpredictable? This isn't just some philosophical question. This is the literal, physical challenge Ang is currently weighing for a very specific batch of young fish.
So let's actually meet the tiny heroes of our story here. According to Ang's notes, these are Turkana Jewel Cichlids, scientifically known as hemichromis-exsul. Right now, as a growing batch of juveniles, they aren't exactly much to look at. Ang specifically notes their coloration is still relatively dull, but they are carrying an incredible hidden treasure within them, and that's their genetics. The ultimate goal, the real reward at the end of their developmental journey, is inheriting the extraordinary genes necessary to display vibrant, brilliant colors as they mature. That is their massive potential, just waiting to be unlocked.
But you know, reaching that full, colorful potential, that requires accelerated growth. And that brings us to the real crux of the situation. As Ang watches this batch grow larger, an absolutely crucial threshold dilemma is fast approaching. These juveniles are outgrowing their current phase. They are standing literally at the absolute edge of their known world. To reach that vibrant adult stage faster, they might need to cross over into a completely new environment. It's basically the defining moment in any hero's journey, leaving the safety of home.
And this brilliantly illustrates the pretty grave choice Ang has to make right now. Their current setup is safe, it's completely predictable, but it's also a restrictive, slower growth environment that is actively holding them back from their full genetic expression. The alternative is the outdoor pond. That's the fast track. It's a much larger space that guarantees rapid growth, but as with all great rewards, there is a massive catch. The pond is not empty.
Let's just pause and really think about this for a second. Imagine being a tiny, juvenile fish, dropped into a vast outdoor pond, only to realize you are not alone. There is a guardian of this threshold, a creature that has claimed this abundant territory as its own for quite some time. The tension here is palpable, because the exact nature of the threat lurking in those waters is completely unknown.
Listen to this direct quote from Ang's log. The outdoor pond, quote, hosts a single large cichlid, can't recall what species. That is just such a terrifying yet honestly kind of relatable uncertainty, isn't it? Anyone in the hobby knows the slight chaos of having a single massive occupant holding down a pond for so long that you genuinely forget what it even is. Will this lone, massive fish be highly territorial? Will it see these new tiny Turkana Jewel Cichlids as invaders? Or, worse, as a midday snack? It is a colossal biological gamble to drop dull-colored juveniles in with a giant, mystery resident.
So what does this all mean? It means the waiting game begins. Because the juveniles are still so young and their colors are still so dull, it is simply way too early to tell if they've even won the genetic lottery yet. Why risk them to the mystery giant if they aren't going to display those vibrant colors anyway? So instead, Ang initiates a pause. By pausing the journey and just observing them for the coming week, Ang is using patience as a strategic tool in ecosystem management. It's all about waiting for that biological confirmation before making a fateful transfer.
Let's move to Ang's roadmap and see how this all builds into the larger picture, because Ang isn't just staring at one tank all day. While that week-long pause happens for the Turkana juveniles, there's a whole chronological roadmap in motion. Ang is actively decluttering other tanks, which efficiently creates the necessary space to prepare for breeding dwarf cichlids, and that, in turn, ultimately makes room to acquire entirely new fish species down the line.
What's really fascinating here is how this whole microdrama with our Turkana cichlids is framed within a much bigger, bustling macro ecosystem. Ang is basically playing the role of the master architect. Delaying the move doesn't just protect the juveniles. It buys the necessary time to prep the rest of the world.
The arrival of the dwarf cichlids and the planning for future species reveals this constant, amazing cycle of life, breeding and expansion. Every single tank, every single pond is a precisely moving piece in this incredibly complex aquatic puzzle.
Which brings us right back to our tiny heroes currently suspended in this week of waiting. We're left with a total cliffhanger straight from Ang's August 2026 logs. Will these dull juveniles finally express those highly sought-after, vibrant genes? And if they do, will Ang finally decide the reward of accelerated growth is actually worth the risk, sending them across the threshold to face that large, mysterious giant lurking in the outdoor pond? It perfectly encapsulates the fragile, high-stakes decisions aquarists make every single day. So what would you choose for your ecosystem? The stifling safety of the known or the dangerous abundance of the wild?